The UK pension system is one of the most complicated in the world, or we feel it that way. So I'm not going to attempt any very comprehensive picture of what's going on in the UK, but just to focus on a couple of major issues, particularly retirement age and also what is happening to the position post-retirement age. So just a brief summary of where we are at the moment. First of all, the process is underway to abolish the earnings-related state pension. So that's the UK equivalent of the Canada Pension Plan. That's not to say we're giving up on social security, but we're moving the whole of the social security program to be flat rate. That's to say not dependent on earnings. There are various reasons for this. One is that the original state earnings-related pension plan, which was introduced in 1975, was very much structured around defined benefit pension plans being able to contract out of it. And we don't have many defined benefit pension plans anymore, other than in the public sector. So the whole sort of rationale for the working together of the public and private sector in that plan has been taken away. And the other thing is that the government is in the process of introducing auto-enrolment. Auto-enrolment is a mandatory system for all employers have to enroll their employees into the workplace pension system, principally defined contribution, and the individual has the choice of opting out. This is rather modelled on the New Zealand plan that was introduced a few years ago. And the aim is that over time, everybody, or most people, because only a small proportion will opt out, it's about 10% at the moment, the opt-out rate, most people will have a defined contribution workplace pension, which is a big increase on where we were before, where only about 50 to 60% of employees were in a workplace pension. Anyway, that's the background to why we're moving to have a higher level of flat rate pension, which means that very much fewer people will have any need for means-tested top-up, which is the existing situation. For people who don't have enough income from other sources, they are eligible for benefits which are based on a means test. That's not a very good basis for introducing the auto-enrolment system. We needed to have a higher base, and so that's what's being introduced. At the same time, the basic pension, not only being higher, is also going to be indexed quite generously. Most other countries seem to be moving in the opposite direction. We're moving to the higher of prices, earnings, and 2.5%. So that could ratchet up over time, which means that the state pension is going to increase in cost unless we do something about the state pension age. State pension age has been 65 really since the system started in 1948 for men. It was 60 for women. Over the last few years, the pension age for women has been equalised, or is in the process of being equalised with men, being brought up from 60 to 65 over the period of 2010 to 20, and only partway through that period it was decided to push it up to 66 for both men and women, and that's going to happen by 2020. Then legislation is already in place to increase the state pension age to 67 between 2026 and 28. So quite a fast move to try to catch up. I think some years when we should have been doing this, but politically it wasn't seen to be expedient. At the moment it seems to be politically perfectly acceptable, and there's been very little adverse reaction to this. But more interestingly is what happens beyond 2028, when we have now legislation in place for a regular review process. Every 5 years there is supposed to be a formal review. The government actuary has to prepare a report on the proportion of adult life that people can expect to spend on state pension. So that's really the ratio of the period post-retirement age to the period from starting work to retirement age, and based on cohort expectations of life, so including those projections of future mortality improvement, which Jean-Claude was alluding to. And the aim is to keep this proportion at about a third as we move forward. It's about that level at the moment, and the intention is that this report from the government actuary would help to steer us towards setting a higher level of state pension age, as it's called, eligibility age in the terminology of the report we looked at earlier this morning, as we move forward into future generations reaching retirement. But in addition to this government actuaries report, which is really based on the demographics of the situation, there is also supposed to be an independent commission report looking at the implications for society of raising retirement age. So looking at factors like regional differences, gender differences, differences according to different areas of work that people are in, different health conditions, and so on. Now, what exactly is going to be done with that supplementary information is unclear, but ultimately the decision about what retirement age should be will be a decision of the Parliament rather than something which is completely automatic. But these are my calculations, not the government actuaries' calculations, but this is based on just looking at the demographics in relation to the existing most recent population projections, which would suggest that the retirement age will go up by about a year every 12 years in order to maintain this ratio of the period in retirement to the period in working life. So that just gives you a sort of foretaste of when pension is going to go up. And so I can show it to my children and say, well, look, you were born in 1981, my daughter, therefore you can expect a retirement age of 69 in 2052, and so on. Now, interestingly, diverging a little bit from the UK, the latest report on the cost of ageing in the EU, called the Ageing Report 2015, which came out in May, illustrates the number of countries in Europe which are addressing this retirement age issue, which is quite remarkable at the moment. It really has taken off over the last few years. And there are three main things that are being done. One is the notional defined contribution approach, which started off with Sweden, but has a number of countries following that same route. That's where you turn your state pension system into a accumulation of rights through a notional defined contribution arrangement. It's not funded, but it's done in the same way that a defined contribution plan works. And then at retirement, you calculate the pension by dividing the accumulated amount by the then annuity rate. Finland and Spain are introducing what are called sustainability factors. That's to say, when you get to retirement age, there is a factor applied to your pension, which is the ratio of the expectation of life at some fixed point to the expectation of life in the year in which you retire. So as the expectation of life goes down, so your pension would be reduced in successive years, retiring at that same age. You can work for longer in order to get a higher level of pension. And then the other countries, I think, are all working on something like the UK system, rather different variations of it, saying that there is going to be regular indexation of the state pension in one form or another in the future. Well, the other thing I was going to talk about is what happens after retirement. For many years, the UK has been perhaps the biggest market in the world for annuities, lifetime income products from insurance companies, because our tax authorities many years ago said that all pension savings, in order to benefit from good tax deferral, should be converted into an annuity at retirement, with the exception of 25%, which was allowed to be taken as a lump sum, which was tax-free. That was relaxed a few years ago, that you didn't have to buy an annuity until you were 75, but then suddenly, out of the blue, 18 months ago, in the budget speech of the Chancellor of the Exchequer, he announced that he was abolishing annuitisation requirements. So effectively, everybody would be free to do what they liked with their pension when they reach retirement age. It's not quite as simple as that, as you give that sort of political statement to the civil servants and they turn it into 100 pages of legislation. But basically, you can still take 25% at your retirement and use the balance in a couple of ways. One is to buy an annuity as before. The other is to purchase a drawdown contract as before, except you could now have that going on for the whole of the rest of your life rather than having to buy an annuity at 75. But then the new thing, which has this catchy title UFPLS, and I challenge any of you to work out a way of pronouncing that, and it stands for the catchy title of Uncrystallised Fund Pension Lump Sum, and that allows people to take a series of withdrawals with a quarter of each withdrawal being tax-free and the rest being taxable at their marginal rate. So in effect, they could turn their pension accrual into a sort of bank account where you can take out pieces year after year or month by month, however you want. Now, that's the principle of the matter. The practice is a little bit more difficult because it depends on pension funds being willing to operate such a system or you being able to transfer your money to a financial institution, primarily insurance companies, which will operate such a system. And there's still a bit of a hiatus in this. It's been very rapidly thrown together, and the insurance industry has been a little bit cautious because of the dangers of being caught on the hook of mis-selling products. And so not all insurance companies, in fact, very few insurance companies at the moment, have a full suite of such products. And many defined contribution pension plans are not